Hello, everybody. This episode is sponsored by Saint Ange Auto Parts. Saint Ange Auto Parts is located next to the Monrepo Credit Union and below the Clear Sky Hotel in Viewfort, very close to the Uptown Liquor Store. They carry the best brands for the best prices. Purchases are cash only. Business hours are Monday to Saturday from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can call in at 454-3030. You want more information. Remember to wear your mask while shopping, and if you go there, let them know we sent you. All right, let's get into it. Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Family Reflections. My name is Keddy Emmanuel. I'm your host, and I'm on the line today with Ingrid Charlery. Ingrid, can you tell the people hello?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to speaking for a little while now, and I'm excited that we're finally getting the opportunity to do so. Ingrid has a very fascinating story. She's a public speaker. She's the author of 2 books, which not optional. You have to get those books. You have to check out her story. It's a very powerful story, a very powerful testimony. And I'm really excited today for us to have a discussion surrounding her story, surrounding mental health in the Caribbean and in St. Lucia. And I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
So right out the gate, Ingrid, can you tell us a little bit about your story, about your journey? Give the viewers and listeners some context to who Ingrid Charlery is.
Well, Ingrid Charlery is a young lady from St. Lucia, Laport, Monrepo, reside in the US for 23 years now. I went through some trials and tribulations, and within my trial, I was broken, completely broken. And in my brokenness, when I was able to see light at the end of the tunnel, I gave birth to 2 beautiful books called The Strength of a Woman, the first one. This book was written when I was completely broken, and it was written to strengthen, rebuild, empower, encourage anyone and everyone, both male and female, that is going through depression and having the thought of suicide. And basically, the other book, which is I Thank My Past, is a continuation of my first book. And I simply thank my past because every time I look back at my life and I look back at my past, I realize if I didn't go through what I went through, I would not be where I am today. So I thank my past for taking me through what it took me through and bringing me to where I am today. And that's where my 2 books came from, my journey.
All right. So I'm guessing then that the motivation to write came from wanting to help people, wanting to give back, right? To help someone else, someone else who's kind of gone through the same journey.
Yes, my motivation came from, it was also for me as well. It was part of my healing. I was writing what I was going through at the moment, and I needed to write. I needed to talk to someone. I was also talking to a therapist once a week. I was seeing a therapist once or twice a week. I had anxiety, and even in the Caribbean, people say anxiety does not exist. But anxiety exists because anxiety it is hard to describe anxiety. I never thought I could ever get anxiety. Even people that were depressed, I would say before I was depressed, I would say, no, that don't exist. What's the matter with this person? Get over yourself. You know what I mean? Because that's what society tells us, especially us from the Caribbean. They tell us, forget about that. Don't worry about that. That's nothing. Move on. Even men, society tells men they're not allowed to cry. They are not allowed to weep. They are not allowed to complain. They are not allowed to, talk about their problems. They are allowed to man up, chin up, right. Wear your head up high, shoulder, and don't cry. If you cry, then they call you names, all types of names because you cry. But I think a man who cries and tells his problem, this is not showing a form of weakness. This is showing a form of I need help. I
Mhm.
need help. Can
Yeah.
I talk to you as a person? Can you keep my secret? Can you encourage me? Can you rebuild me? Can you empower me? Can you tell me something that can make me feel better? So my story, my book, it was written for both. It is called The Strength of a Woman, but it was
Mhm.
written for both men and women. It was written to show men that you're not alone. This young lady from Monrepo, from La Puente, Monrepo, St. Lucia, she undergo homelessness. She went through jobless. She went through depression. She had the thought of committing suicide. She lost everything. And her world was crumbled.
Yeah.
And whilst, the world was against me, I felt like the world was against me. I also felt people were kicking me more to the curb, deeper and deeper. And all I had, all I had left in me was two things. Either I end it because this is too painful, what I'm going through, end
Mhm.
it, or I have to use this pain to make me rise like an eagle, rise and fly like an eagle,
So
rise beyond.
I want to kind of unpack both stories. If so, in The Strength of a Woman, the
Mhm.
first book, uh, I'd like for you to kind of give us sort of a synopsis, right, of how your story plays out there in that first book.
So a short synopsis about my first book is a young lady that was homeless, jobless, broken, completely broken, and wanted to end her life. She was this close to committing suicide. She felt
Mhm.
like no one was there for her. She felt like the world had turned its back on her, and all she had to do was end it. She was going through so much pain, pain where the only thing that could have made me feel better at the moment was ending my life. And thank God I turned to God. I turned to prayer. I remember my mom back home telling me prayers can conquer it all. Know how to pray, build your faith, have a relationship. And this is where my strength came from. When I went back into the word, I went and read scriptures, I went and read prayers. I became a strengthened, empowered, positive, encouraging young lady also became a public speaker that helps people who went through or are going through what I went through in the strength of a woman.
Okay, and the second book, I Thank My Past, is kind of a look back at the changes in your personality and the changes in your life that come from uh, the brokenness and come from a place of healing. Correct?
Yes, I think my past is it's about my past when I was a child. It is about my past when I was broken in the strength of a woman. I think my past is about my biological mother who sort of abandoned me when I was a child, labeled me, mistreated me, um, abused me verbally all the time. I think my past is written because there are lots of mothers back home in the Caribbean who label their children. They treat their children badly for absolutely no reason. And when I looked back at my childhood, I look back at my life, I think my past came from when my biological mother needed me. She needed me. She was being abused by a man. And I went back into the strength of a woman. I said, where is the strength of a woman? You got to get her out. And the strength of a woman came out. And I said, the strength of a woman is to rebuild, strengthen, empower. So look back at your past, forgive your past, keep your past behind you. Use your past to be strengthened even more than the strength of a woman. And I came out like a champion. I helped my biological mom come out of whatever she was going through. And today she's stronger, she's getting better, she's a little bit healthier than she was. And I think my past is a great read for mothers who have labeled their children, mothers who have been abused and stay in abusive relationship. I think my past is just a book for mothers and daughters, young men who feel or felt the way that I felt as
Right.
well
Right.
as a child.
Okay. Very good. And thank you for breaking that down for us. Um, Going back to the strength of a woman, how did professional therapy play a part in your healing there?
Oh, wonderful. It did a great job. I was allowed to cry. I was allowed to cry without being judged. I was allowed to cry without being brushed. Like, when you stop somebody from crying, that person does not want to see you again. That person does not want to talk to you. That person does not want to have anything to do with you, because crying is part of healing.
Right.
And I'm going through so much pain, and you're telling me, forget about this, don't worry about this, that's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's brushing me off. That's telling me your pain don't matter. What you're going through, it doesn't matter. So why are you crying? Get over yourself. Like, get over this thing. I'm homeless. How could you tell me get over myself? When you tell me get over myself, is that going to give me a house?
Right.
Is that going to give me a place to stay, a place so that I can lay down? I'm sleeping around homeless people. Some of them stink, some of them, on crack and all that. And I have to be amongst that, and I can't sleep with my eyes open wide night and day. I'm mentally disturbed. I'm mentally ill. I'm feeling this side of my head telling me to just do crazy things. I'm hearing loud noises in this side of my head, and in this side of my head, I'm just seeing the world. A lot is happening in my head. So for you to tell me, do not cry, therapy allowed me to cry. Therapy allowed me to be myself. And my therapist gave me advice. My therapist was helping me find a home. My therapist was helping me to go places. My therapist was giving me advice how to attack certain things. What do I do? What do I say? And crying was a great part of my healing, because where there is grief, no matter what type of grief you're going through, there is a loss, there is grief. Healing comes next, and I needed to cry to heal, to become who I am today. So therapy was very good for me. And it's not, if you cannot afford a therapist, you can find a pastor, you can find a friend, you can find someone you trust, someone, to talk to. And all I ask of this person is, like, keep the person's secret to yourself, because they confine that in you. And if they were to find out, other people know, that is embarrassing for them. And that's a problem right there. And that could lead to suicide as well. So when someone confines something in you, even if you do not have a degree of a therapist, you listening and you're giving advice, keep those things to yourself and continue to advise that person in a positive manner. Positivity will come out of it. It will come out of it. It came out of it for me. And I'm grateful that I went to my therapist. My therapist did a great job listening and encouraging me and helping me to become who I am today.
So, question for you: what was what made you take the initiative to go to your therapist to begin with? How did that happen?
So when I became homeless, I realized I was about to become homeless. When I realized I was about to become homeless, and I was so depressed, I was ashamed. I said, I need to talk to someone. I need to check myself in. I need someone to know what I can't keep all of this in me. This is too much. This is too much. So I went and I checked myself in, and I called my therapist. I said, I need to see you ASAP. I need to come in your office. And he put me on the schedule, and we began going. And my first session, nothing much came out of me but tears. I cried for more than an hour. I just cried and cried and cried. And I felt just a tiny bit better. And because nothing much came out of me, he gave me another session that same week to come back in so I can start talking, so he can find out what is the problem, what have me so broken. And then I was able to talk to him and stuff. And we started looking for homes, looking for shelter, looking for things to help me get better with what I was going through.
Okay. Now, you mentioned homelessness. What are some common misconceptions that you think people have about homeless folks and people who are homeless?
They're disgusting. They're gross. They are drug addicts. They're on crack. They're on coke. And a lot of these things are true, but not every single person that is homeless is like that.
Mhm.
Because I became homeless when I broke my foot. I had a broken foot, and I lived with a man, and he did not want a sick woman, and he
Wow.
got me mentally ill. And every day he was telling me to get out of his house. And that's how I became homeless. I had a job. I lost my job 1 month after my broken foot. And that's how I became homeless. And
Wow.
then when I went in the shelter, I met people, their house got burnt. They became homeless. I met another family. Her husband died and she lived with her husband's family. So the husband family kicked her out. They didn't like her as the wife, so they kicked her out when the husband died. I met a dad. His wife was on crack and used up all their money, couldn't afford their mortgage and stuff. So they got evicted. So he became homeless with the kids. It's not everyone that is on crack, that is, you know, on drugs, that is a thief or from jail, prison, and don't have a home to go to. It's not that. It's
Mhm.
real, genuine people who were living a luxurious lifestyle or a decent lifestyle, and a situation happened.
Right.
Like last week, some people became homeless because we had a tsunami, we had
Flooding, right?
a tornado, we
Yeah.
had a
Right.
tornado, and a lot of houses, people were living in the basement. Everything got destroyed. People became homeless. People
Right.
became, you know, the flood happened. So they lost all their possessions, their beds, everything, because the water was really high. The water was high up to car level. The next day I was going to work, a lot of abandoned cars couldn't drive in the water. So the drivers saved their lives and left the car. These people became homeless too. So
Right.
this is just, when you hear homeless, you think of stinks, the person stinks, the person is disgusting, the person is this. That's what I thought. Like when people would come up to me asking me money before, I'm like, please, you live in America, you were born and raised here. I had to pay for my status. Go get, your status is free. I'm not doing that. I'm not helping homeless people. That was my perception about them, because
Mhm.
they were Americans homeless. But I never even imagined what I went through could have happened to them until I became homeless and I saw how people were looking at me, and I analyzed it and I said to myself, this is how you looked at the homeless people. So these are the stuff that people think about. This, you all were paying the mortgage together, your salaries, but you lose your wife and the salary, you cannot cut it, you become homeless. That does not mean you're a thug, you are, on the street, you're in drugs, you and all of that. That does not mean that. So
Yeah.
a lot of people go homeless for different reasons, and it does not pick who it attacks. It can pick any color, any race, children.
But yeah, I wanted to say that definitely I agree that um, you know, homelessness tends to follow a life-altering situation, a life-altering event. And all the scenarios that you just gave me are things that weren't necessarily completely in people's control. Basements flooding, having a relationship end. Um, by the way, guys, I want to point out, I just have to segue quickly to say that I'm sorry about me constantly wiping my nose. I have sinuses and they're acting up. And that's another thing I can't really do anything about. I'm trying, just hang in there with me. But
Mhm.
yeah, so going back to homelessness, it's not really something that people can control. And I think we should all, as a society, be a lot more empathetic towards homeless people, because you
Mhm.
don't know how they ended up homeless. You don't know what
Yes.
happened. And the very best that we can do is help them with changing their situation.
Yep. Absolutely.
So first of all, I want to congratulate you on writing those books. Writing a book is not easy. A lot of people don't know quite how challenging it can be to stick through and write and edit and publish and do everything that needs to be done towards offering a book. But I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your challenges while writing that book.
So writing a book, I had a lot of writer's block, right? Writing a book. I lost a lot of train of thought because when I was writing The Strength of a Woman, I was just writing straight. I was writing from, so on a Saturday, I would just write from about 8 a.m. or 10 a.m., 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. I would just write all day. And Sunday, the same thing too. I would just write all day, and I would probably write 2 hours or 3 hours a night after work. Although I'm tired, I would write. And the thing about it is, I would write so much because everything that came to my mind, I would just write it, write it. Everything I was going through, I would just write it. And sometimes I made no sense. You know, when you just write all day, you just lose your train of thought. So my editor taught me something that was very good. He said to me, you cannot write all day. You write for 2 hours and a half and you walk away from that computer. Go do some dishes, go cook, go do something. Let your brain cells think of something other than writing. And then you come back and you write again. So when I did that, I realized that I was putting the chapters down better than me writing all day and I'm out of ideas and I just write anything that comes to mind that does not make sense, and that's gonna bore my reader and make my reader put the book down. So also writer's block. I joined a lot of writing groups, and when I had writer's block, I posted it once. I'm writing this book and I don't know, I'm out of ideas. And then every chapter, someone posted, every chapter you're gonna write, why don't you write a title for that chapter? And you will get more sentences, more paragraphs, more anything you would need. Just look at the title that you're gonna write. And sure enough, I did that, and I was like, okay, this makes sense. This allowed me to think deep, think better, think faster, think about, I don't want my audience to know this. I want my audience to know that. I want my audience to, and if you're gonna be a writer, I suggest you become friends with people who write. So when you don't know something, they can help you. And that's what I did. I went out there and I have a lot of writing friends. I never met them, but they give me advice. My second book, I got so much help with other writers.
Yes. So you're primarily talking about people online, right? People.
Yes, online, online, because we have a lot of writing groups on Facebook. You join the group, you need a editor, you post, I'm looking for an editor. Then your inbox will be filled with editors or whatever. You post, you're having writer's block. Then people will write underneath that post what to do, what not to do. Everything I needed, even for my second book, I didn't know how to format it. Like when I was about to publish it, the words were all over. It was not in the book. It was, so I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I do that? And I had to post that and ask. And, a young man helped me. He, helped me fix my book, format it well, put it under numbers, put the words the right way, lining and pages and whatnot. And, that's what we writers do. We help each other to write. And as a writer, I never went to school to write. As a writer, you just have to write crazily. Whatever that's on your mind, you just write. You may surprise yourself by having a story. And that's what I did to myself. I just wrote what was on my mind, what I was going through. I wrote my story because I felt like my story is very shameful. When I wrote my story, I found out so many St. Lucian people in New York that were homeless, that were living in a shelter. And they were like, Ingrid, I don't want people to know that, but because you put your story out there, I can tell you that I can relate. And they said to me, you wrote my story. I was in a shelter with my 2 sons. I was in the shelter with my 2 daughters. I was in the shelter with this. My mom did this to me when I was, oh my gosh, were we friends before? They would just tell me. So a lot of people can relate, and that makes me feel good. All these things I wrote in my story, it's not that I wanted this to come out, But I felt like, you know what? When a young man advised me, write your story, just write and don't stop. He himself didn't even have faith that I could write the book and don't stop.
Yeah.
And today I have this book that is, helping people. My editor, he edited my book. He left voice in the book. My voice, my words, everything is in the book. And as a writer, you will get help if you join a lot of writing group. You want to be a writer, you need to associate with writers, friends. You
Right.
want to
Right.
be a pilot, get to know pilots, make
Yeah.
pilot
Yeah.
friends. You want to be
Yeah.
a doctor, make doctor friends. Whatever you want to be, associate yourself with that type
That's
of
why the
people.
saying goes, show me your friends and I'll show you
Friends,
who
and
you
I'll
are.
tell you who you are. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So what advice would you give to people who have similar stories? People who've kind of have gone through what you went through, in terms of homelessness and bad relationships, brokenness, and suicidal ideations. What would you tell those people right now, as some people might be listening?
Well, I would tell someone that is broken from a relationship or homelessness or who's attempting suicide, think about your life. Think about yourself. Go deep down within the depths of your soul and think deeply and begin to talk to yourself. Begin to tell yourself everything that I'm going through here right now. I am not alone. I am not the only one who has gone through this. Someone out there have been homeless before. Someone out there have been jobless before. So me being in that situation right now, I am not alone. Let me use that situation to strengthen me. Let me find my inner strength. It may be dark around me right now, but there is a tiny bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Do not give up. Giving up should never be an option. Suicide is a desperate call for help. And at the moment, people who commit suicide, they are so desperate. They are in so much pain. They are hurting so much at the moment. They are afraid. They are ashamed. And shame will hold you back. Do not let shame hold you back. You are better than shame. You are bigger than shame.
Yeah.
Lots of people have gone through what you're going through somewhere in the world. Some people are starving. Some people are going through worse than you at the moment. If you think about yourself like that you are not alone, I had to have that mentality for myself. I had to tell myself everything that you're going through right now, you're not alone. Remember Tyler Perry, he was homeless. Remember this lady, she was homeless. Remember that guy, he was homeless. They all made it well. They used their homelessness, they used their, pain, whatever. They didn't let their past hold them back. Look
Right.
at Oprah. Oprah had a bad past. Look
Right.
at Oprah. She's one of the richest Black women in the world. She did not let her past hold her back. Do not let your past hold you back. Most times, your past is here to strengthen you. Your past is here to build you. Your past, if I didn't go through that past, I would not have written 2 books. I remember last week, my uncle lives in New Jersey and we just met each other again. And he said to me, "No, you were homeless." We talked about my books and stuff. And he said to me, "No, there's no way if I knew you were the homeless." I said, "No, uncle, I'm glad I was homeless. I'm glad I was homeless because I was homeless. I gave birth to 2 books. If I was not homeless, I would not write a book. I would not change my profession. Right now, I work for the government and I work in mental health. I was broken foot, homeless, jobless, suicidal, no job. And today I work for Joe Biden. Isn't
Yeah.
that epic? This is
Right.
great.
Right.
So when I look back at my past, I say to myself, I thank my past. I'm happy. I'm not going to trade that. This is the destiny that God had for me. This is what God wanted for me. Because I thought that I was superwoman. I could not be depressed. I could not be broken. I had a job. I was all of this, all of that. And it also taught me to be humble. I had to humble a little lower, go down, take it down just a little bit. I had to do that. And in all of this, I became I became bold, I became, strengthened. And I believe it or not, I've helped so many men and women from committing suicide. I've helped them. And I'll encourage somebody to hug somebody. If someone is going through something, just hug them and allow your shoulder to be something for them to lean on. Let them whip on your shoulder and hug them, because a hug can go a long way, and a hug can also put back some broken pieces. Whether you believe it or not, it can put back a lot of broken pieces. So I'll encourage people that all of these shameful things, you're not alone. If I could go through it and survive it and be where I am today, and I'm looking back at my past and thinking my past, so can you. You can do it too.
Right. And that's very well said. I want to thank you for saying that and putting it in that way.
Thank you.
In one of the books, I believe, the first book, I think you mentioned that you were at one point in a relationship with a drug addict. That you found out that your partner was a drug addict. Did that experience teach you anything about addiction? Anything that you want to share with us?
Well, that experience, it taught me a lot. I work with a lot of drug addicts. I see them a lot. I run a clinic on Thursdays where we give them shots to help them, the drugs that they take on the street, so they could have the same type of high and they don't take that drug. And when I asked the nurse why, the nurse says to me, this is a drug that will help them and prevent them from going and sniff cocaine or crack or stuff like that. It is not easy being a drug addict. I see a young man. I used to see him before I worked in mental health. I would see him all over all the time, begging, whatever. I never knew him. And now that he comes to my clinic, he's on drugs big time. And I say to myself, I talk to him all the time, encourage him. As long as I'm done talking to him, 2 days later, I see him checked in the ER. He's on whatever floor doing, he's high. Drugs, what I would say to people, it was tough. It was painful because I've never done drugs before. I've never done weed, smoke weed. I just feel like people who do drugs, some of them, it is a choice that they make. It is a choice that you can't say no to drugs, because once you're hooked on drugs, that's it for you. And me as a person, when I found out, I only found out because I was ill and I was in the house on crutches, and he stayed in the house a few days and he was staying around a lot. And then I saw different movements were happening because I'm a workaholic. I'm always out working. So when I saw that and I caught him doing drugs, I was like, oh my gosh, I am with a drug addict. I am with a guy who takes crack, who takes cocaine. This broke me, because if I wasn't strong and he offered it to me, that would damage me. My thing for people, I encourage people, say no to drugs, because it can really destroy you.
Now, another thing, you mentioned that, or at least from the way I've been hearing this being described, it seems to me that a lot of these issues occurred after migrating to the US, right?
Yes.
So
yes,
it sounds
absolutely.
so it sounds like this is kind of the story of migration here, and it makes me wonder, if you could go back, let's imagine to just before you migrated, and you could give yourself some advice, what might that have been?
So if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would have said to my younger self, I was very rebellious against God. I felt like I wanted to be a runner. I wanted to go to Olympics. I wanted to do fun things. And religion held me back at Adventist, 7-day Adventist. It held me back. So I was rebellious against Christians. I was rebellious against religion. I would see the people in the church, most of them were wicked. They were not kind to people with big hearts. And as a Christian, people hid underneath the word Christianity to make you think that they will good and have a big heart like Christ. But I came across so many mean people in church, and I felt like church took away my dream, what I really wanted to be. So I was rebellious, and I wouldn't pray. I would pray whenever I remember. But now praying is a must. It is part of my daily routine. I have to pray before I lay down. I have to pray when I wake up. I have to give thanks for being alive and waking up. So if I would say something to my younger self, what I would say to my younger self was, I wish you didn't listen to people, or you didn't feel the way you felt about this. You could have ignored them and still have a relationship with God. I did not have a relationship with God. I was fighting him like, I don't need you. I don't need you. And then he was the one who saves me, not a family, not friends, not anybody. Everybody who came in my life when I was broken was because God sent them at the moment. God sent them. So I would just say to myself, I wish my younger self, I wish you were not so rebellious against God. And I wish you thanked him and praised him. And, maybe just maybe you would not have done all these mistakes. But then again, these mistakes were meant to happen to make me who I am today, to take me to where I am today.
Yeah. And I want to tell you that I am really standing in awe of your story here. I want to tell you that I'm really proud of you for pushing through what you pushed through, and not only just pushing through, but also attempting to turn around and give back to others who may come after you in the form of these 2 books that you have written. Folks, we will definitely ensure that we include the links to both stories or both books in the description of this video. And we will be back in 2 weeks because, as you know, Family Reflections is bi-weekly. Hopefully the next time you see me, I don't have these sinuses bothering me. Hopefully. But Ingrid, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for taking your time out today to sharing some of these gems with the Ionola platform and the viewers and listeners.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And the book's are in St. Lucia. It is in Micoud, it is in Tiroche, it is in Beaufort. I made sure I shipped it down there. So if anyone wants the book, they can get it. They can call this number 287-3105. They can call this number for this book, and they could arrange a location to pick up the book. And I would like to thank all my readers in St. Lucia, those that have been supporting me for both books, The Strength of a Woman. And also, I thank my past. I want to thank all the gentlemen who bought my books, who read my books. And I want to thank this gentleman in Beaufort, Andre, I don't know his last name, but he wrote me a very nice letter, very nice note. And I want to thank the prisoners in Bordelais for all the love letters, the notes that they're writing me, because I donated books to them and they love it and it's encouraging them. I let them know that they're not alone. I was once a prisoner too within my body, and I let them know that even if they are prisoners behind bars, there are lots of prisoners walking within their own bodies on the street. So stay encouraged. I mean, while they're doing the time, stay encouraged, pray, thank God for life, and thank God for food. Thank God for, thank God for everything, and stay strong. And they make me feel really good. And I was supposed to come and see them this week. But unfortunately, I had to cancel my flight because of this COVID. The level of COVID right now in St. Lucia is really high. And I had to cancel all my interviews, all my trip, everything. But I'm very glad you and I still had this interview. We could have done this via Zoom, and it's awesome. And thank you so much for taking the time out to, invite me on your show. I really appreciate that.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
Yes.
Guys, you are seeing this on September 6th, tomorrow. So yeah, check out the books, and We'll see you. We'll see you soon. All right. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye.